friends. Hello, everybody. Welcome back for our workshop on YouTube today with the question that comes up in all our adult friendships. So, when's the last time that you made a new friend? That was my question. For myself, I started to ask my team, I'm asking you, when's the last time that you made a new friend? And now think for a moment, was it easy? Was it immediate, kind of a head over heels? Or was it more awkward at first? Did you meet as strangers or were you introduced? And in the early days of your friendship, no, maybe even in the first hours of that friendship, was your experience one of self consciousness? I haven't felt self conscious about making new friends in quite a while, but I see it a lot. I hear it even more. And I remember when I felt that way. So, I was kind of tracking stages of my life and what my friendship life looked like at that time. So I grew up in Belgium and all my friends are what are called childhood friends. And childhood friends means that you have met them, you know their homes, you know their parents, their siblings, you get them with a context. And then I moved from Belgium to go to university in Israel. And I arrive, and for the first time, I ask myself, how does one make friends when you've never even seen their homes or their parents? Like, what's that like? And then I come to the United States, and it becomes like, how does one make friends with people who know nothing about where you come from? Belgium is one of those places where most of the time, for a long time, people had no idea where it was. So it was like, I'm from Belgium. Oh, where is that? So it's near France. And there was this whole kind of thing about situating myself and regarding the accent and all of that. So in various phases, and then I meet friends and I make friends, but then you make friends with foreigners very often at first, and then the foreigners go back to their home countries, and then you start to experience that fleetingness of a friendship that is very immediate and often deep, but that is not necessarily lasting, or at least not lasting in the same place. Anyway, it was quite an exercise for me to kind of trace the various phases of my friendship life. And this is mental health month, and I want to be clear about how much these questions about relational health are directly related to our mental health. Mental health and relational health are inseparable. This is kind of my opening frame here. And our ability to make new friends as adults has a lot to do with this. So, what I'm saying is that social connection, and I'm not the only one to say it for sure, is essential for surviving and for thriving, as well as for our ability to process trauma. As Peter Levine, a very important psychologist, says, trauma is not what happens to us. Trauma is what we hold inside in the absence of an empathic witness. That makes a huge difference. So here I am in my 20s, and I have to learn to make new friends in various countries. First it's about asking other students at the university to help me with taking notes, because what do I know about taking notes in Hebrew? It's a very strange alphabet. Then I come to the US, and I need to find locals who will help me rent a flat. But in order to rent a flat, I need to have an account. And in order to have an account, I need to have a job. And in order for all of that, I also need a driver's license. And basically, I have none of it. So that's the beginnings of making friendship, where the question of asking for help doesn't even appear as a question because it's a fact, and exercising the skill of making new friends over time positively influenced my sense of self-confidence and self-esteem, my sense of connectedness. And all of that actually impacted my mental health. Loneliness was not just a mood, it was a state of my mental health. And when it was less lonely and more connected, it was the same, but for the better. And listen, I also know that it's often easier said than done. And despite the fact that I feel blessed with lots of friends all over the globe, I still have the same questions that I had way back when. And those are questions that I think many of you share with me as well. How much sharing is too much sharing? Let's start with that. How much sharing is too much sharing? And when is it okay to ask for help? And how much help is too much to ask? And when is it appropriate to talk about the things that I struggle with? And none of these things have really disappeared. And in new friendships, the question will always come up for all of us: how much of myself do I reveal? And what if they don't want to hear it? Or what if they don't like what they hear? And we're going to look at all of this. But first, housekeeping. Housekeeping. Thank you for joining me. And this is called Letters from Esther Live, my monthly workshop series that helps you reflect, act, and develop greater confidence and relational intelligence in all your relationships. The series happens monthly on YouTube and Facebook Live. And for more Letters from Esther, I invite you to go to estherperel.com/blog. And I also invite you to join us every month here on YouTube or on Facebook to discuss the newsletter live. So you get to read it, then you get to hear it. And soon, as I share some thoughts with you, we also will be discussing it. You get to ask me questions and we get to be in conversation about it directly, you and me. So before we start, consider reaching out to someone who you think should be here. Just right away, send them a message in whatever form you do and say, this is for you, not just for me. And then we will actually also be able to connect about it. And as always, I encourage you to take notes in your notebook dedicated to these workshops and to anything else in your life that helps you develop relational intelligence. And if not, pen and paper will do. So if you like the channel, and if you like what you hear here today and what you learn here today, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go ahead. You can even do it right away up front. Okay? So, here's the thing. I once recently, a few weeks ago, I was invited at TED. And I was invited to do an opening session for all the people that were coming for the first time, to kind of help them connect with each other, be less intimidated into one of these spaces where you arrive and there's thousands of people, and how do you begin? And I was to start with a fireside chat interviewed by TED's head of events, Monique Ruffbell. And before I could answer a single question, knowing that this was a room of essentially strangers, it just came out of me. And I said, can you raise your hand if you come here somewhat anxious today? And if you have little anxiety, just keep your hand right here at low level, right next to you. But look around you and see who else has their hand at a kind of low level of anxiety. And you may want to do a high five with them. And if you find yourself coming with a lot more anxiety, raise your hand a little higher so that people can identify each other and share in their experience, because you are absolutely not alone. And if you're in the middle of a full-blown panic attack, just raise your hand all the way to the top so that you can find each other as well. And I was also clear that for many people, and I asked as well, this was the first time in 3 years that they were coming to a large gathering. And then I wanted to also ask and inquire about the progressively encroaching social atrophy that so many of us, and there as well, are experiencing in small and big ways after lockdown, in remote work, in remote grocery shopping, in virtual therapy, and online friendship. Meaning that I'm well aware that for so many of us in that room and here, our primary relationships, above all, inadvertently has become with our screens. So I said to them, keep those hands up and just high five. Identify, not just identify yourself as in here, but also identify the others with whom you have a shared experience in the moment. And then maybe you'll even find each other right after, and you can go and talk with each other. So you can not just talk as in, I feel this, I feel that, but you can become anchors for each other while you're here. Hey, remember when we just arrived? I saw you. I felt like this, you too. And slowly you get to actually process the development of the lessening of the anxiety and the social consciousness. So this was a room full of people who didn't know each other and who were probably all dealing with a level of imposter syndrome. But who doesn't these days? I mean, really. So, next question was, how many of you would say that you come with a bit of an imposter syndrome in you? And then instead of trying to hide it and pretend it's not there, how about you just kind of say, it's like, hi, I'm Esther. How's your imposter syndrome doing today? What level is it at this moment? Mine is at a 6. So we call that externalizing the symptom. So instead of living with it and then trying to hide it and subsume it, it actually becomes the thing that you put out there, but as a part of you, not as a representation of all of you. And then I inquired about, what was it like for those who actually had to travel really 24 hours across the world to come and be at this event, and how that also amplified people's eagerness to connect. And for all of those experiences, raising the hand, standing up, embodied practices, for me are my favorite because it immediately brings us into the shared context while we still allow the individual expression. So, we clap, high fives at the level of the shared experience. We don't have to say anything. I don't have to speak. I don't have to witness my throat getting, entangled. It's physical touch, connection that recognizes what is mine and what is ours. So I think that we all have some anxiety, but it's to different degrees. It's not that there are people with absolutely none and people who are completely choked up. And I wanted to normalize that, to make it a bridge for connection. Um, Now, I don't want anybody to walk away with a vulnerability hangover, thinking that they share too much of themselves. So we organized conversations around questions, questions that allow you to answer at every level, which a time that you changed your mind, a rule that you secretly love to break, a risk you took that changed your life, something that your best friends know about you, but that strangers don't. So I don't mind, by the way, vulnerability hangover, but I want it in real life rather than, when people are perfectly comfortable dumping all over, in virtual life. That's the interesting thing, is that the more we are dumping on the platforms and the more we seem to be choked up on the real life. And that gap here is of great concern to me. So let's talk about what's underneath social anxiety. And I asked on social media for people to actually answer the question. I find it difficult to make new friends because. And I gathered a whole list of answers that were shared with me and things that I have heard over years of practice in my office. And I'm going to invite you, as you listen, to actually also echo it. It's like, if this is the one for you, just write it in. And if it's others, make those available as well. So, here are some of the things people were saying to me. I feel like I have to like them in every aspect. And I know it's not realistic, but I can't help. So I find it difficult to make new friends because I feel like I'm being pushy when I try to connect, or needy, because everybody's life is already so full, and where should I meet them? I'm single And I feel like everybody is very focused on their babies and their partners because I'm awkward, because I feel inferior to everyone, because I feel everyone already has picked their friends at my age, because trust issues are coming in the way, or feeling unlikable or unlovable. I feel stupid with my comments, or because I'm afraid that others will find me strange because of lack of time, because I'm not sure how to tell the story of my life without alienating them, because people I meet tend to not reciprocate or act interested in becoming close friends, because I don't want to, because I'm shy and I don't know how to initiate conversation, because some new friendships don't last long and that inevitably disappoints me, because I can talk right then and there, but I don't know how to foster the relationship afterwards, because I'm recently divorced and it feels like I don't know how to socialize, because I have limited social energy, because I'm too tired beyond my job and family, because I talk too much, because I'm not talkative enough, because I'm afraid of rejection. That would be mine. Because I feel foreign, because I feel that I come from a completely different culture, because I don't know which parts of myself to share, because I'm queer and polyamorous and it's hard to talk about basic aspects of my life without outing myself right away, because I don't know when to share about my past. Now I'm going to go and see what some of you are saying. Aaron, because I'm through a grief process and I don't want to let anyone into my grief. Isabel, already full life. Um, I mean, I do recognize the feeling that I'm trying too hard when approaching people. Yes, Sunny. Diana, because starting a friendship is a lot of work. It's also a beautiful exploration and a discovery. Define friendship. Let's do that in a moment. Imposter syndrome, Hope. Yes. Elan, I find it difficult to make new friends because I'm afraid that they will leave me. Yep. Yep. George, I feel as if I'm not good enough to be in their presence. Right. So I'm going to take this thing, George, and I want to go with that. And all of you, all of us who are actually, you know, is that um, if I if I ask you, you know, in the end, what we're going to hear is a lot of I'm not smart enough, funny enough, charming enough, rich enough, good looking enough. Simply, I'm not worthy. But if I ask any of you who feel this way, how would you describe yourself as a friend? I have a feeling that quite a lot of you will respond with phrases like, I am loyal, I'm a good listener, I am caring, I am thoughtful, I show up for my friends, I'm there for people. So I would like to hear some of you, if in not what makes it hard to make new friends, but how would you describe yourself as a friend? And then in the process of that, when you still ask yourself, what is a friend? It is probably one of the most mutual, reciprocal, free choice relationships that we have. It is the first relationship that a child actually gets to choose, is who will be their friend. It is based on liking. It is based both on sameness and difference. It is based on shared interest, but also on curiosity. It changes with the ages, and it's one of the few that can accompany you from the beginning all the way to the end. Sometimes it's unequal. Sometimes it's very much an equal relationship. Sometimes it ends, it dies a natural death. Sometimes it moves because it no longer can adapt to the next stages of life. But it is quintessentially a free choice, reciprocal relationship, friendship. One of the most beautiful relationships we can have. So, how would you describe yourself as a friend? Let me get a sense. Stefan, I want depth and quality, but I also feel like I'm overwhelmed. People just look at their mobile phones, Sylvia. Few are interested to listen. I would say I'm loyal and a good friend. Yes. I'm accommodating. Yes. um, Someone that supports my growth and changes and doesn't feel threatened by that. Yes. So now you're defining friendships too. See, there is defining friendships, and then there is defining how you are or who you are as a friend. Alan, oh, you disappeared. I'm best friend. I'm the best friend one can have. I know it. Yes, Manish. Rebecca, thoughtful, understanding, fun. Yes, fun. We haven't talked enough about that component. Yes, Pat, I'm selfish and I hope they don't ask too much of me. Ah, okay. Well, you have a good sense of what your boundaries are. Susan, if I open myself to vulnerability, okay, Christoph, I'm an adventurer. I'm like showing up in important occasion. Yes, yeah. Okay, so you see, the thing is that the very same person who sometimes has all kinds of explanations for why other people wouldn't want to be their friend is also telling you how wonderful a person they would be as a friend. And it is with that that you want to go into new situations. Those attributes, those descriptives of yours, I'm fun, I'm loyal, I'm present, I'm a listener, I'm a caring person, all of that is what needs to accompany you when you encounter the voices that say, I'm not this, I'm not enough of that. you know so the f- you know we tend to focus a little too much on will other people be friends with me. And what actually helps us answer that question is our focus on the kind of friend we would be. If you know that this is the kind of friend you will be, you cannot continue to say, nobody wants to be my friend because of all the reasons that I just wrote before. Who doesn't want to make friends with somebody who is kind, loyal, fun, a good listener, and shows up? you know so when you go and introduce yourself to people, it's these characteristics that accompany you as well, and you want to elevate those. So when you deal with your social anxiety, I'm not going to have anything to say, they're not going to care, I'm not going to be, I'm a great listener. I am actually really somebody who shows up for my friends. I am the kind of person you want to have as a friend. And that part of you goes right here with you in that other hand, right? One hand said, I'm anxious, and the other hand said, and I also know that once you get to know me, and now we continue with the kind of friend I can be, you know, because all the things that I read to you before about rejection and about not not being important enough and about not knowing what to talk about, etc., they are fears. They are not facts. Social anxiety is a fear that manifests in a behavior, but it is not a truth about you. It's a very important thing to really keep in mind. So, the first skill is going to be to be kinder to yourself, skills for creating new friendships and maintaining them. The second skill is to focus on what you bring as a friend rather than what you lack. And from there, you can ask questions that go beyond what do you do, right? What do you do? A question that I love to ask from the beginning is, if you had a chance to do things differently, what would you do? And I leave it purposefully really vague. It's open to interpretation so people can choose how to answer it at every comfort level. I also suggest you practice active listening. So, what I'm hearing you say, or did I get that? So that you get to repeat. If you repeat what another person says and you show them the kind of listener you are, you don't have to worry about what do I have to say and can I put my words together and is my voice going to choke? And people will, by de, de facto, connect with you because listening is a connective tissue. Ask follow-up questions, and then pay attention to boundaries so that this may be more than what the person cares to say. I don't know if you're comfortable talking about this, but I'd be curious to know if I'm curious to know if what would you say is, so you qualify. Qualifiers give people an out and give you an in. you know. Don't make assumptions. It's probably the most important thing. Don't make assumptions about yourself. If they leave and they go to get something to drink, that doesn't mean they were bored with you. It just means that, you know that this was not the conversation they particularly wanted to have, but that doesn't mean it's a statement about you. So all the fears that we described, it really involve negative assumptions about ourselves, right? Practice mutuality, meaning don't be afraid to share things about yourself as well. But not, somebody gives you a long story about something, and the first thing you do is just say, and me. But as you've responded to them, as you've practiced the listening, as you've asked more questions, then you can say, it's interesting. I have experienced something somewhat similar. In my life, I also have encountered that. And you don't have to go all the way in the first interaction, just whatever you're comfortable with. Like any relationship, friendships build over time. This is really an important thing. It's a progressive thing. Even if the beginning is quite, in the moment, immediate, the relationship itself of friendship is built over time with shared experiences, with moments where one person shows up for the other, with the building of new memories, etc. There's also a magnificent friendship episode on Where Should We Begin of two young men, one Bangladeshi, one Indian, who grow up together, then move apart. Then one of them thinks that the other one no longer really cares about them. The other one thinks exactly the same about his friend. And it's really very magnificent to hear the way people muse and evaluate their friendship, what it means for them, how they tell the history of that friendship. So that's on Where Should We Begin as well. I was just thinking about these two guys as I'm talking to you. So here we are. Put your questions in and let's start talking. I'm sure that there's a lot of things, and I'm going to let us choose some of these questions so that they become, oh, Anna, you're already there. What to do when you don't feel like the friendship is reciprocal? Tell them or let it go. Fear of not being accepted or wanted. So that is an amazing question. I was actually literally talking about this with the team earlier. It depends on how much you want that friendship, or how much you think that the other person is just being barely, kind of careless, but it's not really intentional, or because you're not fully sure. So you go and it's really, hey, do you want to, here's the thing. Sometimes I think it's useful to send a text in advance and say, I'd love for us to discuss this. This is more when what happened last week, or I had a sense that you were unhappy about that, or something didn't sit right with me. I'd love to just have a moment with you. When we meet next time, we should kind of bring this back a second. Sometimes you meet the person, you're doing an activity of whatever, and then in passing you just say, can I ask you something? Because it's been a few months, where I feel like I reach out to you all the time and you're always busy, you always have already made plans, I'm not included in the plans. Is this my impression, or is there something to that? Is there something going on between us that I need to know? Sometimes you have a sense that the other person has decided, for whatever reason, that you're not as important in their life anymore. And at that moment, you may say, I'm not fighting for this. I don't, if you don't want to be with me, I'm going to need to grieve that, but I'm not going to impose myself and beg for your friendship. It's not a good thing. You never beg for friendship. So there's a range here of situations, and I'm answering in the plural because your question is specific, but the theme is larger than that. So, Joyce, building friendship takes energy. How does one find that energy when they suffer with depression? But what helps you with the depression, first and foremost, is to not feel far away, disconnected, untouched, unloved, etc. So friends are there to scoop you from underneath so that when you fall, you don't collapse. During the depression, the friend is there to say, you will get better. This lightens up. The darkness doesn't last. the dark clouds pass and another sky emerges. It may take a while, but I'm here with you. I'm not letting you down. Your life has meaning. Your life is worth living. And that's what a friend does. So it's true that when you are depressed, it says to you, why bother? There's nothing to look forward to. Don't sweat. All of that is also there. But you do a little bit. And you may say, I've been really, really low. I miss friendship, but I don't have it in me at this moment. And then if you have a friend, they may say to you, it's my time to carry us. I'll do it. I'll call you. I'll check in on you. I'll bring you something, to eat, whatever it is. But and all of these things, of course, demand active. A friendship is an active thing. Something if it's totally dormant, it's like a culture. It becomes invisible and it dies. It has to be manifested and expressed and alive. That's it's a living, breathing organism, a friendship. Yes. Um, how to balance building friendship and building a romantic relationship. Yeah. So, um, uh, actually, before that, I'm going to go to Juliana. What are some practical ways to make new friends as an adult, particularly when you work from home? Yeah, but that's a killer, right? How are you going to meet anybody? You. It's what I said earlier, right? We shop from home, we work from home, we exercise from home, we do therapy from home. Where exactly are we supposed to make new friends? We need to get the hell out of our houses, or we are going to really get more than just socially atrophied. We're going to become something else. you know the practical skills is, um, I saw a good concert. Are you interested? I would love to get a pair to go and see this movie. I saw there's a really nice bike ride here. There's a new bar there. It's really that you will notice that, the one who takes the initiatives. Look, I live in New York City, where if you invite people 3 weeks before, they're all busy. Everybody's always busy. If you actually ask them the day off, it seems like half the people are totally free. So all of these people would have spent the day or the night by themselves at home, you know. And that's the interesting thing, is that we think we need to plan in advance, but in fact, I don't even know if people have real plans, but they often say they're busy, and then when you ask them the day off, it's an amazing thing. So you take initiatives and you see who bites. Sometimes it's, if you have kids in the house, it's about, it's 9 o'clock, everybody is finally down. Is there somebody in the neighborhood I can go and have anything to drink with? Small things. Who wants to go for a run with you? Who wants to go and lift weights with you? Who wants to, it's things like this, very discreet. Activities is a beautiful way to build friendships. And especially if you can afford it and you can invite the other person, that's even better. It's like sometimes it's an offer you can't refuse. Okay. Yes, Mathilde. How do you break up with an old friend? That's an amazing question. That's a whole chapter on its own. I had a friend recently tell me about, a friend who made a comment that really was deeply wounding to her. And the distance began to grow. And the whole time the other person was saying, you're a lousy friend. You're, my other friends tell me you're a lousy friend, etc. And at some point, basically, they went on a long walk. And at the end of the walk, basically, one person said, I don't think that our friendship will continue. And and she broke up the friendship, literally. That's one way. I've never been able to do it like that. I tend to, if there's a friendship that loses its meaning in my life, it dies a natural death. It peters out. I think that you have a sense of the people who check in on you on a regular basis, and the people who kind of, it becomes a once a month, once every 3 months, every 6 months. But then yesterday, I met a friend I hadn't seen in 10 years. And I thought, wow, what happened to us actually? How did we check out of each other's lives? We used to be really quite tight. So the breakup is sometimes explicit and overt, and sometimes implicit and gradual. Sometimes it's sudden, because something happened and you need to stop it. And sometimes it just felt, peters on its own. So there are different types of endings. I wouldn't always call it breakup. Sometimes you feel a need to go and tell someone, you hurt me and it's beyond repair at this moment. And then that's called a breakup, right? I don't want to be your friend anymore. And sometimes you don't need to make the statement. You can imply the statement. You can express it without having to make a declaration. So I think breakup of friendships is huge. There are entire books about it. And there are many different ways to end. I have always talked about the end of a friendship, but I actually have been broken up with. I mean, I have been on the side of somebody who stopped responding to me too. So, and it's a very, very shitty feeling. It's like, because, and especially when it's a person who doesn't let you come and repair, doesn't let you come and apologize or make it right, and just say, that's it, I'm done with you. And it's interesting, for years I never called it a breakup. I just said, I've been cut off, I've been, yanked out of a person's life as a friend. But it was a breakup. I mean, the person made a statement. I've never made the statement. I think it's maybe because it was so upsetting when it was done to me. So that's my musing on this one. How can you speak a little about ghosting? Yes. Look, the ghosting is that, right? It's the literal eject button, and you're out, and you disappear from every, social media platform. You disappear from my phone book. You just like you're erased. And it's really, really painful. Now, sometimes it's deserved, as in you may have done something that, you stole something, you betrayed a person, you hurt them badly, and they're basically telling you enough is enough, and they draw a real limit. Sometimes you thought that things were going fine, and it's like, what happened? I'm not important enough anymore, or you're too rich for me, or what the hell just happened here? And I think, honestly, the best way to lick our wounds around ghosting and around breakups, because there's such a devaluing of our sense of self worth, is to surround ourselves immediately with other people, other friends. One doesn't have to be a crowd that tells us a different story about us than what we've just experienced with that particular person. And the thing about ghosting is what I said before, right? It's like we managed to do a whole bunch of things online at this point, say things, cut people off without having to look in their eyes and just tell them we're done. And that is very, very painful, and very callous sometimes on the part of the people who do it, because they don't have to deal with the feelings of the receiver. They just act without feeling, how it resonates and reverberates on the skin of the other person. And that's a problem. Yeah. Could you talk about friendship in which there is unreciprocated attraction? Ah, amazing. You've got the book, people. Every question is a chapter. Is this an unhealthy dynamic, even though one is upfront that there's no more than platonic feelings and the other person? Listen, if you are pining, if you would like it to be more, and you have the other person, it depends on what you can handle. It's really simple. If every time you're there and you go back home with grief, with a sense of why not, but we get along so well, and it's not like he has anybody else or they have anybody else, or can you handle it? And that sometimes, it's easier to handle when you finally do have somebody else that is romantically involved with you, and then this becomes a friendship. It depends if you want more. To be, to say, I'm attracted to you and you're not attracted to me, okay. But if you want systematically more, then there's something that can sometimes be quite eroding, because it is a kind of a minimal rejection, unintentional on the part of the other person, but de facto it is a chronic little low grade rejection. And so that is the question to you: how much of that can you handle? Now, you may say, but they are my best friend. They're there for me like nobody else. And then again, I'm going to ask you, that's true. And can that offset the little low grade rejection that comes with, I'm really drawn to you. I would have loved for this to be a different relationship than what it is. Can men and women be friends? Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is also a real cultural thing, because I know that in the US, when you put friendships between men and women on a search, you're going to get immediately, no, not possible, totally sexualized all the time. You can't. I don't believe it. I don't think it's true. I think that there are deep friendships between all types of people, certainly between men and women identified, and lifelong, and they can coexist with a primary romantic relationship. And I honestly think that it's very, very good. It's really important. I tell my sons that they should have girlfriends that are not their girlfriends, so that when they have questions about the girlfriend, they actually have another female friend that they can go and talk to, as well as male friends for that matter. Is so important. I have spent a lot of time wondering why this was seen as so impossible. Why does everything have to be sexualized? And a part of it has to do with this country's attitude towards sexuality, that then describes friendship between men and women as impossible. So I'm quite clear on this one. I wish it for all. Yes. Yes. Okay. So I think that we are going to have to stop right here. And I thank you all for joining. I hope you'll join us next month for Letters from Esther Live. Remember, follow me on YouTube or anywhere else, and let's stay in the conversation. See you soon. estherperel.com/blog or Esther Perel Official on social media. Bye, everyone.